think the environment has to be changed.
What we're saying is have a heart.
We've got to be able to regenerate our
There'll
economy.
be people who are kind, people who are cruel, but that's life.
You can be passionate about pigeons. I'm fine with that.
I want to move into another area, and again, we have the opportunity to listen to Elango's stories. It's about hiring National Servicemen before they get called up. There is a reluctance among employers to do that, and there are also companies that are willing to do that. And maybe you can tell us about the policy of your company.
You're talking about the reservists, right?
Before they go into national service, would you hire somebody? Because you're going to face the problem of losing them for 2 years, right?
Oh, that one, if they are young boys, they won't have any much.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Then it's the reservist, okay. So they have to go for reservist.
The reservist is the issue. So I am actually handling about 300 SMEs, approximately 300 SMEs, accounts and all that. I interact with them. General perception is small SMEs.
Tell us more about your company. What do you mean you're handling 300 SMEs?
No, I'm an accounting service firm.
Okay, so you serve these
I do accounting work for the SMEs.
small and medium-sized enterprises.
Okay. They could typically hire about 5 to maximum 50 employees.
Okay.
This is a sector who prefer not to hire NS men, who are actively doing their...
What is their choice? Because everybody would have gone through NS, right?
No.
They would hire women.
They will hire women. Like for example, if you go into shopping centers or boutiques, they don't hire men.
No, but you don't hire men for boutiques anyway.
Yeah.
For fashion boutiques.
Correct.
And
then,
some you do.
and service areas, they hire women, they hire foreigners, they hire newly converted citizens, hire people who are over 40 years old. So as to avoid this thing, because it's for practical reason, very practical reason.
Okay.
The thing is, okay, we hire them on rank and file because it's not a problem. I've got 5 guys. So one NS man is there, one for national service, the other 4 guys who cover. But if I take a senior position who's an NS man at the point in time, it really damages the workflow because there's nobody can cover for a short period. By the time the fellow get up to fill in the gap, this guy has already come back. The guy was gone for national service, so it's not practical. 2 weeks can be very critical and you lose a lot of money. So unless the firm is slightly bigger, like 100 men or 200 men, and then there are many managers, and then 2 of them, one is a non-NS man and the other one is an NS man, then you hire. If you go and see carefully and sit with each company, small company and watch, this is the pattern. So it's not that we don't want the NS men, as much as I say they're mentally very strong. And when you compare NS men with the foreigner, our guys, the NS men are much more stronger mentally to handle issues, handle tough, challenging situations compared to the foreigner. They try to run away. When the push comes to shove, they cannot find them. But the Singaporean guys continue, the national service.
Okay.
So despite of that, for commercial reasons, it's very difficult to hire them.
Companies are reluctant to hire them.
Yes.
And this is the worry of NS men. 2 out of the 5 NS men that were interviewed worry that employers prefer staff free from NS obligations.
Correct. That's a fact.
And what is being done about it?
Okay, the problem is comes from in there because most of them, like my personal experience, I had a young guy, very promising guy, 19 or 20 years, I think he's 21 years old. I'll finish his national service, he's going for his reservist obligation. Joined me and he had a lot of potential. I put him in a senior position. I want to train him. And he's also studying in the university, SIM, as a part-time student. So I find a lot of potential, so I put him through this. And when the call came for about 10 days or something training, when I talked to the CEO, he refused to budge. He doesn't want to understand the situation that why don't you just call him for another training, 3 months or 4 months time, and I would have got a replacement. I was given 6 months notice. I was given a notice 6 months before the national service. But as time comes close, someone who is doing a critical work resigned. So this boy has to fill in the place. So when I explain this to the India, they are not prepared to listen. They simply come and say, oh, we have read through everything, we consider all the facts, still we don't approach.
So what happened to the boy?
Then what I did, I moved him to a lesser intense segment of the company.
Okay.
So he went there. I transferred to another company. And then it's because you have this, their financial year is April. So this fiasco was in March. Next time when I moved him in June, he was called for August. So now I tried applying. He just joined at think they traced back. It's the same boss, ultimately. So they refused. So I didn't want to argue because he was not carrying on significant work. So the boy is losing out because I will not be putting him in a senior position even if he is capable of it. And I sit down and talk to him. He understood. He said, fine, I understand that.
But he cannot be expected to lose out forever.
Yeah, but that is a problem, isn't it? Because on one hand, he is going for part-time classes. I need to deal with that. He take examination leave. I need to do that. He naturally take his own annual leaves. That's fine. Then sometimes he falls sick. Okay. Then he go for national service. Can you see how much disruption there are?
Yes.
So I support him on his education, motivated him to pursue his education. But this was disruptive. I write him in there. It didn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this would only last as long as he's going for studies, right?
Yes.
Because after that, then his only difficult period would be NS, and that would be acceptable. You just don't want to handle NS and studies and sick leave and all that all at the same time.
No, not only that. Unless I have another, I suppose if I develop my tax department, and then the department grows. I have two leaders. Then I'm hiring. But if I depend on one leader, this leader definitely prepare for finish an NS obligation or a foreigner or a lady or something like that.
So you need to provide for a standby.
Standby.
So what are the other coping mechanisms you have to support the employment of NS men?
Yeah, that's why.
Apart from the standby thing, are there any others?
No, not actually.
No.
I haven't thought of it.
But if you say that it is tolerable if it is just for NS, but it becomes more difficult if they have multiple requests for leave like NS and for studies and other things.
Right.
How about for the university?
I think for us, there's a lot more flexibility because, let's say if I go for reservist, which I did in the past, right? And sometimes we have team teaching, so we sort of arrange among ourselves that during the time I'm away, someone else will be covering my duties. So we can do a lot on our own, you see, without actually requiring the employers to employ another person to stand by. So I think for us it's less of an issue.
Because you're a bigger organization.
Yeah, and we can actually sort of arrange among ourselves rather than require the employers to make the substitution for us.
Well, what about smaller firms? Xavier, you work in the kitchen, right? So do you have people doing NS and going off for NS and all that? And is that a problem with the boss?
No, actually.
How do they cope? How many people, how many cooks do you have?
We got 4, inclusive the chef.
Okay.
There's 4.
So
basically, every station there's one guy, and another one is an extra, not an extra, it's an assistant. So he can help out. So we shouldn't have a problem with any guy that called for the reservist.
yeah, what about the moving company?
For the moving company is actually is fine. With
How many employees?
For my company is like we have 60 employees.
Oh, 60, so you don't count. Okay. How about smaller companies? Who works for smaller companies? All of you do work for smaller companies.
I mean, even though, I just like to share though, I mean, even though I'm not working now, I guess when I was in school, in secondary school, teachers can go reservist as well, and the students lose out, because sometimes teachers will miss lesson as you go for reservist. So I mean, that's just one area as well, students miss their lessons.
But they were relief teachers, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the quality of teaching will be different, right? It will be disruptive as well, yeah.
Exactly. The replacement one would not have the same quality in a commercial setting.
But some suggestions given by the employers on how companies can be incentivized to hire the NS men would be to give tax breaks
Yes.
or cash incentives, to have more options for staff to keep in touch during their.
Yes.
And once you go in, at least they can continue to do part-time work or something. Or creation of an online portal where they know when their staff will be called out and plan for that. Or the portal can be used to justify to military commanders why a particular employee has to defer his call of duty. So these are some of the suggestions. Do you think as a placement company this would be useful?
These were my suggestions.
Then why didn't you suggest them when I asked you what options are there?
Blank. The portal suggestion, the tax breaks is something that I told the minister during the ongoing Singapore conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
And then I also talk about employers' CPF paid by the government. Now the employers are paying. Yes, employee.
or during that period.
Yes.
No, but during that period, I think the army pays for the salary.
Army pays a salary. Army pays employees' CPF, but not the employer's portion.
Also, you're suggesting employer's portion.
I think they're quite willing to
So,
accommodate that.
so how far have all these suggestions gone?
The CPF one, I think the ministry is quite receptive, but the tax one, I'm not so sure. They just like, they heard for the first time, because I'm from the tax line, so I gave them exactly how to do it. Something similar to PIC. You know, the
Okay.
company is making profit, then he can get the deduction. If he doesn't make profit, then there's no benefit. So they can give certain percentage of what the tax savings ought to be to the employer. So that can incentivize them.